So you go into the military. Is that straight out of high school?
So no, I joined at 24. I think I was 24.
So high school, college, then the Air Force?
So I was in high school, did a little bit of college, went to cosmetology school, was a hairstylist for 5 years, absolutely loved it. Moved to California for 6 months, was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not happy. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I want to do something more meaningful. A bunch of forest fires happened in California. It kind of like, for some reason, it was kind of changed my life a little bit. I don't know why, because it wasn't like that big of a deal.
But it rocked you a little bit?
It rocked my world. I don't know why. And so as I was like escaping the fires, because it was going towards Santa Barbara, I came to LA and I like went, got a bottle of wine, sat on the beach for like 2 hours by myself and just finished the bottle of wine. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I don't even know. And so I called a recruiter that day and came back home to Minnesota and joined like literally like that next day.
Wow.
So I was 24 at the time, I think. 23.
And you picked Air Force for any reason other than what was the reason that
Actually,
you went? Did you go to the Air Force?
Yeah, it was the Air Force. I actually I never had a specific reason for picking the Air Force as a branch. Like, I don't think I would have chosen differently if I were to have to do it again, but there was no specific reason, honestly. No.
They kind of just pointed you in that direction, said, let's go.
Yeah, I think I was already slightly connected because I had a few friends in the Air Force, and I think that might have been why, but other than that, there was like no like specific reason.
And you went into, if I read correctly, is like heavy duty work, right? Like
oh my gosh.
I mean... Yeah?
Yeah, so my job is basically, the best way to describe it is like a lineman, but on the ground. So like we do climb towers and we do climb telephone poles and stuff, but like for the most part, we're digging holes, we're laying cable, fiber optics, and like I'm like operating heavy equipment.
And you picked that? Did you pick that, or is that assigned to you?
Yes. The only reason I chose it is because when I joined the recruiter, I said, give me a list of all the jobs with a bonus, and that's the only list I'm going to choose from.
So you have a little financial motivation inside of you.
Yep. Okay. And so I didn't care at all. Weather was one of them, being like, I don't even know if it was like a newscaster or what I would have done with like the weather in the Air Force, but that was like a year training in addition, and I just didn't want to do the year training, and so I chose cable and communications for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah. Random.
You obviously could do the work. Was there ever at a point where you were outside going, fuck this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the bonus check was still on its way. And
yeah, I think like after I joined, I realized what I'd gotten into, and I didn't really know initially. And then after I went to basic, and then I went to tech school, and then I started realizing the work. Like, I never really looked into what goes into the military. I had no idea what I was getting into when I joined and went to basic training. Like, I knew nothing.
You were escaping from something.
Yeah.
Whether it was your own mind or your circumstance, you were getting out.
And when I went to basic training, like, I remember even like when the first day or second day that we joined, like, people were saying the Air Force Creed and then the Air Force song. And like a lot of these girls, like in my, like on my team or whatever, like they all knew it, and I was like, am I supposed to know this? And like a lot of people already knew like military bearing, how to stand in formation, and I'm like, I didn't know anything. Like, I never even looked into it. Like, I just went in blindly. I was like, well, let's just do this,
and
see what happens.
And they chose the path, through college maybe, or they've chosen that path, so
yes.
They knew they were coming, and you were like, hey, I signed up yesterday.
Yeah, literally. And I was also one of the older ones, so being 24, there was a lot of like 18, 19-year-olds.
Kind of like going to college, right, at 24?
Yeah, it was brutal too. And like then going to tech school and being 26 then at the time and living in a dorm, like imagine like having to do that at 26 and being like locked in a dorm and having a curfew. It's brutal. Yeah. And then being told like, oh, you can't drink outside of base, or you can't do certain things, or you can't like be in a room with a guy alone, or you can, like, it's just weird because you're like, I'm 26, I've been doing all these things my whole life, and now I'm like,
is that a years of service before you can fuck someone in your room?
No, it's depending on the base. Like, a lot of bases are different where they don't allow females and males in the different dorms. And the reason this base had that is because they had like the highest HIV rates or something. Whoa. And so they completely, like, women and men were like off limits. Whoa, and so they we had in the hallways, like, women or men could not go past a certain point in the hallway, and it was like only the female dorms.
So was it just like a bed right before that point that everyone just kind of rotated?
Pretty much, yes, actually.
I remember college a little bit.
Yep, definitely some people got away with it, and then some people got kicked out over it too.
Wow. So you went 4 years, so 2 years training through, and then 2 more years.
So technically I signed a 6-year enlistment. Okay. Now I'm on my 5th year. So year 4 is when COVID basically happened, year 3. And
2020 then, early 2020.
Yep, okay. So 2020, and that's when I came back from tech school. And that was a whole interesting process just because like being in the military in general around that time was just like a very odd time to be be part of the military. Because it was like this time when like everyone hated the country, but you're like proud of serving, but you're also not, because it's just like, there was just a lot of like tension.
Yeah.
So then once they decided.
And you could feel that?
Oh my gosh, it was so terrible.
Really?
It was so terrible. Like,
are you feeling that from like watching things on the newses and things, or like when you go out, you could feel it?
Not when
in
I go
person?
out. I wouldn't say that, but I will say as time went on, it did get really awkward, because even close friends I had, everyone was posting on social media. So you see something on social media and then you see that person
and you know what they're thinking.
And you know what they're thinking, and you're like, I'm someone they hate. Like,
Isn't
I know
that
they
interesting?
hate me.
I still think this today, that all the divisiveness in this country and probably across the world starts in social media and the news organizations. And then you run into someone on the street and you don't get that vibe.
No.
But if you watch it first and then you run into them, you're like, well, I guess all white people are this way and all black people are that way. And
100%.
it just isn't that way.
No, and I think too, social media creates a place where like you can say what you're thinking in the dark, and you can say what you're thinking when you're alone. Whereas like if that didn't exist, you would just say that to people in general. But because that exists, we are saying those things behind closed doors, and it's easy because you don't have the repercussions of saying that to a person face to face and then being like, why would you say that to me?
Do you also think it's virtue? I think people love to virtue signal, even if they don't really think it. Like around COVID especially, you see all these people posting pictures of their kids getting jabbed. And I'm like, well, you never did that with the other 64 vaccinations you gave your
Super
kid up
awkward.
to this point.
Yeah.
You're doing it now. And not only are you doing that, you're tagging it with, if you don't do
your part.
do your part, do my part.
I'm like, what?
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that was the hardest part. I will say, like, and I say this all the time. Like, this is very extreme for me to say, but if I was even a little bit suicidal, I wouldn't be here today based on the way I was treated in the military.
Wow.
No
That's
fucking
huge.
way. It was so brutal the way I was treated. And I told master sergeants, majors, commanders, when I would meet with them, I'm like, you wouldn't believe the way you're treating me. The only reason you're treating me this way is because I have the personality to handle it. You would never treat her and him that way, because you know they would never be able to handle it. But
break.
you know, I'm kicking back and I'm telling you how I feel because I have that type of personality. But that doesn't give you the right to treat me this way. And I would straight up say that
So
too.
behind closed doors, you were obviously a minority in public.
Yes.
With your beliefs and views on this. Behind closed doors, were you also a minority, or were people saying, hey, I feel you, I'm just not strong enough to stand up and say it?
So within the military, saying, or just in general?
Yeah, in that space and time in your life.
Extremely minority. I was 1 out of 5 people out of 100 that didn't get the vaccine in my unit. And 2 of them just up and quit and left, like walked out the door. 3 of us stayed, and the only other 2 people that stayed, their enlistment was up at the end of the year. So I was the only one that didn't have an enlistment up, that waited and stayed, and then stood up and said, I'm just not going to get it. And then
you never had a conversation with any of the other 95 where you could tell, like,
oh no, we
I
did.
really didn't want to do this, but I did it.
Yeah. And
That's what my question was, is like,
yes.
I feel like you were definitely in the minority because you actually went through with not doing it.
Yes.
But out of those other 95, I got to think that a good majority of them inside were going, I really don't want to do this either.
It was like 30 out of 100, I would say.
But I'm not going to say anything.
Yep. So it was like probably 30 people out of 100 that were like on the fence that wouldn't have done it. But also the way they went about it was the day before drill, they said you have a medical appointment. And so it was like Friday night, you got the email or the text that was like, hey, you have a med appointment on Saturday. And obviously, like, if you're smart, you know what it is. And so a lot of people just went to the med appointment. They're like, whatever. And then some people were like, what if I don't want to get it? And they made it just a super awkward, really uncomfortable thing where, like, if you don't want to get it, you have to go through and you have to give them this paperwork and you have to decline it. And then you have to go to the next person and you have to tell them you decline it. And then you have to meet with a priest right after and go through this thing. And then after that, you have to have an individual meeting. You have to tell them why. And like, I went through all those steps. And as you went on, less and less and less people made it. And I remember meeting with the chaplain, who's like a major, and he sat me down.
For what? For that? Hold on. So this chaplain is going to tell you if you're religious or not?
It was like an interview to ask you
to prove that you have a religion that doesn't want you to get a vaccination shot. But I have a big problem, and I don't want to get stuck on this too long, but I have strong views about this too. But this is, it's not, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, it's not that you had a problem with vaccinations in general or their history or what there's good ones and there's definitely bad ones, but we have a problem with this one.
Yep.
this is the one I have a problem with because it's an experiment right now and I choose not to be a part of the experiment.
Exactly.
So even though my religion doesn't say I can't get a vaccination, I don't want this one.
Right. And it also just removes the feeling of like, I thought that we had the freedom to choose. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait, you don't actually have the freedom. And a lot of people said too, they were like, well, you joined the military, you should know that you don't have the freedom. I'm like, that is so inaccurate, actually. That does not mean I don't have the freedom of a human right. Like that is not what that means. So yeah, it was interesting because when I did meet with the chaplain, that was probably like one of the biggest moments in my life where I really, really stood up, because outside of that, it was like meeting in all these different meetings with other people. And then that was the first time I was confronted one-on-one. And he basically was like, are you ready to walk away from the uniform? Are you ready to leave it on the table and like leave? And I said, I am so sick of people asking me this. I said this so long ago. Why are you are a major. You're a major. You're way above me. And you're asking me if I'm ready. You're questioning my belief for the 5th time. And I said, this makes me feel so disrespected when I've told you, and now it feels like you're just trying to manipulate me and keep asking. He's like, well, I don't mean it in that way. And he was really nice. He's like, well, I don't mean it in that way. It's just like, I just need to know, like, are you ready? I said, I've been ready. I've fucking been said that so long ago. Why are you asking me that? Yes, I will walk away right now. And it's like they want to like put this pressure on you of like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I'm fucking sure.
Yeah. Hopefully eventually, how many meetings would you say you went through to get to the end? Oh my
gosh. So many to count. I mean, there was at least, and it also led into me getting in trouble for other things too, because of course there was a mask thing. And if you weren't vaxxed, you had to double mask, and I wouldn't double mask. So it was like, I just got in trouble for so many things all the time. That was the repercussions of that. But I would say, I mean, at least 10. It was such a waste of my time.
Are you saying that you stood 5.5 feet apart from people instead of 6?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I got screamed at for going to lunch with someone who was vaccinated and I wasn't vaccinated. And then we came back, we ate lunch together anyway, because we were at the unit and we were sitting like 3 feet apart.
And it wasn't when that vaccine first came out, they were supposed to protect them, right? So
yeah.
What do they care?
Right.
Right.
Well, she didn't care, but upper management cared, even though when I would go back in their office, they would take their mask off and have a conversation with me.
So there was a clear agenda there, pushed down from someone way higher than probably anyone you ever met with.
100%.
That said, this is what you're going to do.
Yes.
How did this end up?
Now it's kind of interesting because, again, very unique situation where they basically told me about a year ago, they said,
stop for a second. So just so I know where you're at. So you went through all this, you met with a chaplain. Mm-hmm. He says, he gives you what, a stamp of approval, or like what happened?
Kind of. So then the entire, your religious packet, which was very long, had to go to I think it was the wing. It went to the wing, and then it went up the chain, like to who, I don't really know at the end who it went to, but it had to go up so many steps.
What could it possibly be in that packet?
Like your
you said like 10 Hail Marys and bless you, Father, for your sin.
Honestly, it was like so, like I had to get signed off by my commander, my supervisor, the chaplain. I had to write up a whole thing. In any case, yeah, it was a whole long thing, and so you had to wait till that got sent up. It was like 3 months later, it got sent back, it got denied. Everyone got denied. Then you did an appeal, and then you waited for that. I was actually part of a lawsuit with the DOD with like 1,000 people all over the U.S. that were suing because of, a lot of people were suing because they wanted their retirement, their pension, and then they were getting kicked out, or they couldn't deploy. Like I couldn't deploy, I couldn't go on jobs while I didn't have the vaccine. And so it was like this very awkward limbo for a year. And so after all that happened, basically, I pulled out of the lawsuit because I thought I was getting kicked out, and you can't be part of the lawsuit if you're getting kicked out. So I was like, okay, I'll be done. And then they sent me paperwork, and they said, okay, you are like, you're basically free to go. We're going to discharge you, but like honorably, not dishonorably. And I signed the paperwork and I sent it back to them. And then I was waiting to out process. And what happened is like a month, 2 months later, I didn't hear anything. And so I got back to them. I was like, hey, what's going on with this? Like, am I going to out process? I kind of want to just like clear my head and be done with it, because I'm moving to Arizona. And they're like, so we can't out process you because there's a lawsuit going on in Ohio that's going to basically like screw everyone, you know, basically. And so they're like, okay, so we're going to wait till that lawsuit goes through and see what happens. And then at that point, we're going to start out processing people. And then I reached back out because again, I didn't hear back for another couple months. I'm like, hey, I'm literally moving to Arizona in 2 weeks. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm leaving. And they're like, honestly, just leave. You're basically on permanent timeout until we kind of figure out what we're going to do with you, because you're in this like awkward position. And so it's literally been almost a year, and I have not heard one word from anyone, and I'm still enlisted.
Wow. Mm-hmm. But they put you in a timeout.
I'm like on hold. Yeah. So I don't even know.
You still get paid? You get benefits?
Nope, I don't
No.
get. I'm not getting anything. So technically, I'm supposed to have the second half of my bonus this month in like 2 weeks. So I'll let you know if that goes through.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it will go
You're not
through.
holding your breath?
Yep, I'm not holding my breath. But they do owe me for at least the time that I did serve. And if they don't want to pay me for the last year and next year, that's fine. But like a prorated amount for what I did serve, I am expecting that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Wow. It's insane. That's insane. That's insanity.
Yeah.
That was how that was done.
If you heard the stories behind closed doors of like what actually happened, during the time it was happening, I wish I would have journaled a little bit more. But like when I would tell people could not believe the way I was treated. You would not believe.
Even the people that were probably all for going and getting vaccinated, just hearing the story of.
And people even in my unit were like, I can't believe they said that to you. I can't believe they're putting you through that. And I'm like one of my supervisors, for example, literally sat me down with my other supervisor. He was a chief master sergeant, and he said, "You're literally taking up a useless spot." Said that to my face. And I didn't break out crying or anything. I'm like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I just, whatever. Like, this is kind of where I'm standing. And then it was a day after that, I just absolutely lost it. And I started crying. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm being put through this. Like, he just told me I'm useless. And so I told my dad, then that was my supervisor, the next one. And I was like, I've never been treated this way in my life. I'm a super, super confident, secure person. Like, the fact that I feel this way makes me feel like the people that are being talked to like this, that are not maybe this secure, not this confident, like, I can't imagine how they're feeling. And I like absolutely lost it. And he ended up apologizing to me, and he felt really bad, but I still went up the chain, and I went to the major and the commander, and I was like, that's so fucked up that he said that to me. And I'm literally I think I was an A1C at the time. So it's like, you're a young,
what's an A1C?
So like a young airman. So it goes like airman basic. And so I was like pretty low on like on the ranking status. And I'm like, you just can't say that to people as such a higher ranking officer.
Do you think if it wasn't for COVID, you would still be there? If it wasn't for that mandate, you would still be in the Air Force?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because there's no way for me to get out otherwise.
Yeah. Would you have chosen to still be there? I mean, do you feel like that was a calling of yours after you were there for a couple of years? I mean, you kind of went there to escape, but then once you got there, it was like, oh yeah, this is my happy place?
Unfortunately, no, because the military is very much a place of like brainwashing. And as much as like it is good for certain, for certain times of war and other things where like you need to be brainwashed, like you just need to do what you're being told, for sure, that's applicable. I think for anyone who like thinks outside the box or has their own, like if you're a leader in any way, shape or form, the military is going to be very difficult for you, because you don't get to think outside the box. When someone tells you to do something, they truly expect you to just do it and not ask questions. And if you are asking questions, like I got in trouble all the time for just dumb shit, for just being like, well, don't you think it makes more sense if we do this first and not do that? Like that seems kind of backwards. And they'd be like, well, this is what we were told to do. And it's like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But you don't really have that option.
Right.
So
you can't be creative.
No, I would never, ever suggest it for anyone. I massively respect people who decide to stay in. I massively respect people who deploy and serve our country. But I think for anyone wanting to be an entrepreneur, it's going to be a massive waste of time.
You're also a straight white female, so that's fround upon too, just in general.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
At this point, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm technically half Persian, but I'm white. I do consider myself white.
Okay. All right, judged you by your appearance. So there's two types of people, right? There are those people that need a box to work inside, for sure. And I think that's who flourishes in the military, because they're given a very close box and like, hey, I can do this. I don't have to worry about all the outside stuff. I don't have to worry about my housing. I don't have to worry about this if I just do this and keep going. I think people that work in jobs like factories or assembly lines, where it could be somewhat mindless, but there's a security in it also, where you just know what's coming and you know what you're going to do about it.
Totally.
And then there's those other people like you, clearly, who say, no, there's a better way to do certain things. The military is not the place to explore that. So you're out. You immediately moved out here, right, to Arizona. That's all two big changes happening. And then to say, instead of going to get a job, I'm going to start a business.
So I actually my boyfriend and I started a steel sign company a few years back, right during COVID. during like the worst time possible. I dropped out of my master's degree. I had just started my master's, got through a semester. We decided to start a business together, and we did pretty well for like that year that we were, especially considering COVID and everything.
Was that because you had some training in that? Like what steel business? What made you?
So actually he had owned a steel business before, steel signs.
Okay.
And so he kind of had some stuff happen with his previous partners. And so he decided to start his own. And so I was like, I'm all for this. Like, I'm down. I've never had a business before. I've always been like a hustler, but not necessarily like start my own business. So we did that for a year or two, and it was successful. Like, we were breaking even at least, and it was like fun. We enjoyed it. It was a lot of work. We did everything from, from making the signs to sales to marketing to web design, literally everything. And after about a year or two, we kind of both decided to go a little different direction. So he decided to open a hedge fund. So he owns a hedge fund with 3 other partners, and he kind of went that direction. And kind of when that happened, that didn't interest me at all. And so I started doing a little drop shipping and dabbling in other things. And that's kind of when I got into web design and started building websites for people. And that's kind of how that's the direction it took from there.
That steel business was rough at the end, was it? What kind of lessons came out of that?
Oh man, doing something that has so much overhead and so much unpredictability is just not a move I would make unless you're already in the business or or you're very close to people that do that. So like when we were trying to buy steel sheets, like huge sheets of steel, they were because of COVID, we couldn't get the sheets of steel. They were way overpriced. They were we wouldn't get them on time, and then our customers would be pissed because our orders would be 2-3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, and it was just like a lot of uncontrollable factors. And so trying to start a business like that is just, it's not realistic at all.
In that time frame especially.
Yeah.
What's the stress? Do you handle that well? I mean, that's stressful. You're getting calls every day. You're getting emails, complaints filed.
Oh my gosh.
What is that like inside?
Miserable,
Yeah.
but I will say I do really well. One thing I'm really good at is just being resilient. Like, I could be put through the ringer and I'd be like, nah, I'm fine. Like, I'll be fine. And then
you just
sometimes
were
it hits me.
prior to that with the military.
Exactly.
So now this is round 2.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was really hard. I was going through all the stuff with the military at the same time we were starting this business. So it was a brutal 2 years for sure. We were working overnights because the guy who owned the shop with the steel, he allowed us to come in and make signs for just the cost of the sheets. But in addition, we had to do his stuff during the night in between cutting our signs. So we worked for free, essentially, or I worked for free, and sometimes he would be getting paid to do like his stuff, and then we would also run our signs. So we would be working overnights, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever. We would go home, sleep for a few hours. We'd wake up, we'd design, we'd be on phone calls, we'd be marketing, we'd be running our own ads, and then we'd sleep for another few hours and like go back in and work overnight. And it was brutal, so brutal.
Oh, that's a grind.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was very,
So
very tough.
you wrap that one up. You
Yep.
say, let's get out of here. Was that part of the reason you got out? Is like, there's just too much here now. There's the military. There's this business that we don't want to mess with. Let's just go.
Honestly, I've always been a very unattached person. I could go anywhere at any time and start over.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. I could move to another country right now as long as I have my boyfriend. I could go anywhere and do anything. So both of us agreed. Minnesota isn't the most amazing place to live. In the summer, the lakes are great. I love it in the summer. Winter's cold, brutal. We kind of capped out the city life. We met a lot of really successful people, and we just kind of feel like we kind of capped out. There's nowhere else to go at this point. And we wanted to meet more entrepreneurs, more people that had a drive, wanted to do things. And we started to kind of get sucked into a little bit of that, the nightlife and the people who just want to go out and party all the time. And we lived in a very central spot where a lot of people were coming over pre-game, post party, coming over to our spot. And we love hosting, but it was just totally affecting our lives and being successful. And so we're like, let's just leave. Let's get out of here. Let's move somewhere new. And so he wanted to move here because he knew a few people here. And I was like, sure, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere.
And did you decide on your your current business before you left, or after you got here?
Yeah.
You sat down and said, here's what I want to do?
It was right before we left. I had built, I think it was 3 websites for friends for $500. I was like, let me just kind of test this out. I know what I'm doing, but I'm not super good at it. And so they all knew that I had dabbled in websites, but I wasn't necessarily a web designer of any sort. And so they were like, yeah, sure, I'll pay you $500 if you want to just work with me and we do this whole process together, and I actually like help them set up their whole store. I end up helping them with other business stuff, and that's like, it was literally right before we moved that I started doing that.
And you found like you were clearly good at it, but B, you enjoyed it too?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I totally loved it. I think I loved the like just working with people, but I'm also very creative, and so that is the part I fell in love with.
What's the grind like in this company?
So now it's more so, I've been more recently like transitioning out of being constantly available. I think that's my hardest part. I would have said to you a month ago that I like literally will jump in front of a train for my clients. You text me at midnight, I will answer. I'll be on my computer. Like I totally am that person. But I think I was creating a lack of respect for myself by being available, because then people didn't care when they reached out to me. I've had clients reach out to me on holidays. I've had clients reach out to me really, really early in the morning if they're in a different time zone, just stuff like that. And I'm making it more clear that like first hour of my morning is my time. I wake up, I go walk outside in the sun. I drink my morning coffee. I'm going to work out. I'm not responding to any customers at that time. And then like after a certain point at night, if I'm grinding late at night, for sure. But if I'm not, then I'm not going to answer. And so now it's more so like, I would say, just like a normal work day, but I would say I probably work 10 to 12 hours a day now. Sometimes even sometimes 14 hours a day. It just totally depends on the project that I'm working on.
So it's still a grind. It's just a different grind.
Totally.
Yeah. I think so many people look at it from the outside and go, well, I could do that. But it takes a grind.
Yes.
You really have to do it.
Yes.
You can't just... So how did you go from your 3 friends to now you have a clientele that's bringing in the bacon?
Yeah, so funny. Like, so funny that I started like at $500. Like I look back and I'm like, I actually did so much for those people, but I knew I couldn't overcharge because
it's a learning process too, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like I couldn't overcharge and be like, oh, pay me $1,500 when I wasn't even offering anything. So I think I kind of under promised, but I really truly over delivered. And it was literally after those 3 clients, it was like 3 or 4 people, it was like $500. And then the next client that next month, I was like, I'm going to charge this person $800.
How did you find that person? Was this just a
They
referral
found
from
me. I've only ever done referrals. I've never advertised.
Okay.
I've only ever gotten referrals, friends of friends, people I've talked to. So, and it's not that I don't want to advertise. Like I definitely am going, that is my next step for sure. But it's just I've been really blessed to not have to do that yet. But the next month, she found me on Facebook because someone tagged me that I had done a website for. So this random lady found me on Facebook and was like, hey, can you do my website? I'm like, I'm gonna charge her $800. And then the next month I had another client that was, I can't remember what client that was, but all sorts of different industries. Like I've done landscaping, personal trainers, med spas, like lashes, like just the most, and like I'm doing an apartment complex right now, like just every industry.
And all from referrals?
Yes, all referrals, friends of friends, business owners. And so the next month, and I think my next price was like, I'm gonna charge this person $1,200. And then it went to $1,799. And then I went to $2,000, and then it was $2,500, and then $35. And that's honestly the way I did it. There was no structure. It was just like, I know the amount of time I'm putting in, and I started tracking my time so that I knew how much time I was truly putting in. And I was like, some of these websites, I was making $15 an hour. And then some of them I was making $20, and I was like, I gotta start charging. I can't be charging about $15 an hour. Like I'm doing way too much. And so now I've narrowed down my clientele a little bit where I am like focused on a little bit more a little higher ticket where I'm not looking for clients who just want to pay me $1,000. I'm looking for $5,000 and above at this point, just because of now how much time I've spent into it.
But that's maybe the recipe for your success. And I think it's an entrepreneur success in general. And you said it, which is at first, or not at first, always you under promise, over deliver, right? So you're looking back going, I shouldn't be working for $15. But that $15, if you think about it, was also your marketing budget.
100%.
Because you didn't have to have a marketing budget. Because that $15 an hour gave somebody the courage to say, you should use her, right? And you should continue on that path. So the recipe for success for you was, I'm going to find clients by doing way more than I probably should and just bite the bullet.
100%.
Was it, and at first maybe you didn't even realize you were doing that. You were like, here's $500. I don't know exactly what it's going to take. Let's try it.
Yep.
And then you start to realize that.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm realizing now that it's better to actually overpromise even if you don't think you can deliver. Because if you're the type of person, you're the right type of person, you will hold yourself to the standard that there's no way I can allow this to be something that I don't feel like is worth what they paid. So now I will overpromise and be like, I can do this for you and this for you. And the moment they pay, I'm like, well, better figure it out.
Better do it.
Yep.
And is that, you feel like that's probably necessary in that, I mean, all industries are jam-packed with competition. This one, especially over the last 10 years, is super congested.
Yep.
Is that how you're standing out, is the overpromise piece and then living up to that promise?
Not honestly, that hasn't been until more of a recent thing, because I've kind of transitioned from just web design to more of a growth partner strategy where now I'm asking for like a profit split of different, depending on what the company is. I'm like, okay, now I want to do a profit split, plus I'm going to charge you for your setup fee. But if I'm asking for a profit split, like I better be offering you value every month, right? So that's definitely a newer strategy. Whereas before I wasn't necessarily overpromising, whereas now I'm like, I'm kind of stepping into a slightly new space, and I know I will spend 14 hours a day on your business until I make you successful. Like I just will. And so I know that I can't go wrong, and I'm confident in that. And so that's the reason I feel that I can overpromise.
How do you scale it beyond you? Like this is 14 hours a day for you.
Yep.
Can you scale it?
For my own business personally?
Yeah. Like, are you thinking about bringing in people? Is it very specific to your personality, your talents?
Yep.
Like that's the next step, right?
So I have been kind of going through an interesting, kind of like almost like a fork in the road where I could go kind of a few different directions. I love web design. I want to stick with that. But I think what I've discovered is a lot of people need a lot more help than just web design. Once I build a website for someone, they have no idea what to do. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to do their social media. They don't know how to do SMS campaigns, email campaigns, like all that automation, stuff like that. And what I've realized is that I do know how to do those things, so why wouldn't I help people scale their business? So now I've transitioned into more of like a growth partner where I'm going to help you scale your business, and I'm not just going to drop you off and be like, okay, we're done. I built your website, we're done. So for me, scaling, my boyfriend actually has recently stepped in because he's definitely more of like encouraging the growth partner aspect, and he's a big salesman, really, really good salesman. And so now transitioning into that more to scale this, I would say the next step right now, we're pretty good at handling what we're doing, because once we set up the automations, I can almost copy and paste it into another business, except for I just got to change the niche depending on what it is, the wording a little bit for the SMS campaigns, whatever.
But the structure can be similar.
Exactly.
Sure.
So like we've spent so many hours creating structure for scaling businesses. At this point, it's like, I would love to have help, but at the same time, I cannot find anyone with my drive or my boyfriend's drive. We will be up till midnight working on the whiteboard with our lights jamming music on a Saturday night. Like, we don't care. We don't need to go out. Like, we both want to build an empire. And so to us, it doesn't matter what it takes. We're going to do whatever it takes. So it's hard to find people like that. And I would love to hire someone, but I'm also not going to pay someone who I don't see value in bringing into my business as a partner, or as just, even if I was paying them hourly. I also don't want to bring someone in that is going to mess up my vibe and my workflow, because I'm in such a flow state of mind constantly, and so is my boyfriend. We both work really well together. So I think we're just kind of at a point where we're just going to keep building the structure and just sell that structure, to be honest.
That's super unique too. When you have a boyfriend who you're clearly a fanatic about.
Yep.
But your guys are together sometimes 24 hours a day, it sounds like. And working
every day.
closely, 16 out, 14 out. That never gets old?
Oh,
How do you do you need space? You don't need space? You guys, and you've been doing it a while, right? How long have you been together?
This is so funny. We've been together for almost 4 years.
Okay, so it's enough time where you would know by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When we first started working together, we fought all the time. And we joke about this because it was during COVID. I was going through the military stuff. And then we were starting a business together. And the business was brutal because we were working overnights and we were taking sales calls and we got no sleep. And we were also fostering dogs at the same time for some reason. I don't know why. But like, we were just high stress all the time. We also both recognize now that we didn't have individual roles. We were both doing everything, and then we would overlap, and then it was just confusing and it was tough, and neither of us knew what we were good at. We now know, I know he is the sales guy. He's really good at sales. I'm really good at design. I'm very creative. And so separating those from each other and being like, okay, you do what you're good at. I'm going to do what I'm good at. And then if we need to cross over and have a little, opinions on each other's stuff every once in a while, 100% fine, but we kind of have to stick to our roles. He does a lot of stuff. He has his own side gigs, and like he's got a hedge fund and other things that he's constantly working on too. He's on the phone 4 hours a day anyway. So we're not really communicating a lot of times throughout that entire day. And like we have a really nice party room at our place. So a lot of times I'll go upstairs and work, or he'll go upstairs and work. So we get along really well. We somehow, I don't know how, we can be together all day and we don't argue or fight. I don't know. Wow. We just get along.
It sounds like he's got that same level of grind.
Yes.
That's probably important.
Oh
yeah?
my goodness. Yeah. It's kind of a competition where some days, like I used to work, I would work till 10 or midnight, and I'd be in the office, or I'd be watching a movie, and I'd have my computer, and he'd be done for the day. And then that would happen for a week, and then it was like roles reverse, where he would be working all day and I'd be done. And now it's like we're both just on the same wavelength. So we both just have that mindset, like we're going to do whatever it takes until we have our empire. Like we're just going to keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If this was the last thing he heard you say, what would you tell him?
The last thing? Oh, that's brutal. I think he and I were the absolute best people together, because we had the same energy, the same work ethic, the same drive, and we constantly push each other to be better. And we are unmatched as a couple, because you cannot find that anywhere.
The definition of a power couple.
Yep.
Well done.
100%.
Awesome. I'm excited to see where you go. I mean, that type of drive, the grind, the back it up, you have a passion clearly for money, right? But a lot of people have a passion for money that don't have the grind to back it up.
Yes.
And you clearly do.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's do it again. All right.
Acrylic Financial Incorporated is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by those on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Acrylic Financial. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance, and some guests may have been paid a fee to be interviewed for this show.